Now we have the Dutch, Southeast Asia. They want to expand their influence. And we have a colonial administrator quoting and saying that the Sharia, I quote, the Sharia was founded on the most lenient principles and on an abhorrence of bloodshed. Okay. Now, why? What are the commonalities between Berlin 1933 and London 2025?
Bismillah, salatu salam ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. What a question to start with. Commonalities between 1933 Nazi Germany and 2025 the democratic UK as we know it in London. Okay, one of the most multicultural,
cosmopolitan
global city in the world. Okay, what did we see on the 13th of September 2025 that occurred in London, in the middle of London? We saw people like Katie Hopkins, Tommy Robinson, several Anglican priests, by the way, people who were wearing MAGA hats.
We saw a giant warning sign. That's what we saw.
And the Union Jack. Okay. So yes, we saw some crazy stuff there. Something that, to be very honest, since I've come to this country, is the first time that I've seen it. And according to Talk TV, by the way, it is the largest nationalist rally on British soil.
You know what? You've mentioned that a few times before. You've mentioned how the UK, just to bring this point into it, it seems to be lagging behind a few things with regards to Europe, right? These are one of the things it lags behind in. This zeal, this nationalist zeal, this hatred towards Muslims, this wanting to, specifically Muslims, wanting to kick them out, wanting to remove Islam because it's such a threat, it's such a barbaric danger, right?
They mentioned all that. That is very clear. It's not something, it's not conspiracy theory, it's not something we are saying here. You know, they mention it, you know, in
this
clips.
Is already there in Germany, in France, in pretty much mainland Europe. And UK is now finally catching up to the trend.
Finally, they're catching up, yes. It took them 20
and that's not good.
Years, it doesn't matter. They're now catching finally up. Like in many things, they've caught up. Now they're also trying to catch up in this one, unfortunately, which is a negative thing, obviously. But there they are. They mention clearly anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, anti-Islamic rhetoric throughout this.
There is a hidden history, one that has been erased, misrepresented, and forgotten. A history that holds the true identity of millions of Muslims worldwide. The question is, do you really know who you are? And do you know the legacy that Islam has left behind in the world? Assalamu alaikum, my name is Dr. 𝗘𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. For over 25 years, I've been uncovering and teaching the lost history of Islam, the contributions, the struggles, and the legacy often hidden from us. But I wasn't always aware of this reality myself. Raised in Germany with a distorted history, I questioned what I was taught. Researching changed my life. Islam wasn't a threat. It was a civilization of enlightenment and justice. I embraced the faith in 1992 and dedicated my life to reviving our forgotten past. Today, millions of Muslims are disconnected from their history, made to feel like outsiders. If we don't reclaim our narrative, who will? That's why I created this free school community where Muslims unite to rediscover their identity through history. Inside you'll find exclusive documentaries on Islam's lost heritage, authentic historical sources that challenge false narratives, a global network of like-minded Muslims. This isn't just another school. It's a movement for Islam, and it's 100% free. No barriers, just the truth. Click the join button and join us today. Let's reclaim our legacy before it's erased for good.
Any speaker who spoke, actually. And it is interesting to qualify as a speaker on that event. Somebody like a Colombian lady who burned the Quran, you know, was invited to speak. And,
I mean, alhamdulillah, it's great that she burned the Quran. Why? Because Islamically seen, that is one of the legitimate ways of getting rid of a Quran, right? it's burning it. So that's correct. So alhamdulillah, I mean, without her knowing it, she's following the Sharia. Ridiculous.
It is interesting also, you know, if we start at the very beginning already, if you look at certain videos I had the chance to go through and to see who was present, as well as the title, first of all, let's start with that. You know, there's already a discrepancy with the numbers. It is said throughout media, you will find actually they're talking about 110, 120, 130,000 people, which is still massive. However, certain other channels and closer to the right-wing media, channels that are closer to the right-wing media, they say, for example, there was more than 1 million. Okay, so we cannot verify that. I don't know. We don't know really. And on the one hand, of course, I can imagine that the national media will, of course, not try to upset people with supporting the claim of it was more than 1 million, even if it was true. On the other hand, again, if it was 100, 120,000, it's still a massive amount of people.
It's still a significant amount of people, yes. That's still a significant amount of people. Regardless of it being 1 million or hundreds of thousands, this is an issue. This is something that has to be discussed. This is something that has to be dealt with. We have to know how we're going to move forward, okay? Because from what was seen and what was heard from what they want to do moving forward, looking at, for example, one of the people that weren't there physically, but were there was there virtually, Elon Musk, right? The only thing from what his message was is violence.
You're in a fundamental...
Okay?
He says clearly civil war is inevitable in the UK. He actually says the left is a party of murder in reference to 𝗘𝗦𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗥𝗬 murder. Okay, he says the violent left killed Charlie Kirk. Okay, so yes, you're absolutely right. Mentioning him, that's Elon Musk. Another thing that I find even more worrying is if you look at this picture here, and let me share it actually with you here. Do you see? I mean, we see Tommy Robinson, right? And we will speak about this individual. Tommy Robinson in the middle. You see Katie Hopkins behind him. Katie Hopkins, again, an individual who is very well known in the right-wing world, very well known about her anti-Islamic and Islamophobic attitude. This person next to her, by the way, looks like the Hungarian president. He looks like Viktor Orban to me. I'm not sure because he was not mentioned who was there and there is not made a point. But important to see also this person, an individual who is wearing a hat with Trump on it. Okay, a Trump supporter. But the most important thing is who is next to Tommy Robinson's right. If you look at who is next to him, that is an Anglican cleric. Yeah. That is somebody from the Anglican Church. Again, not mentioned at all throughout all the videos that I looked at. You can see these people even having a speech, actually. They talked. And they started, by the way, the whole thing was started with the Anglican clergy, reciting the Our Father in Heaven, you know, the famous prayer. And so combining basically their identity with the Christian, Anglican Christian Church, you know, making it a Christian versus Islam thing. This is absolutely crazy. I don't know what to say.
The only thing that's worse than nationalism is nationalism mixed with religion. Is religion mixed with nationalism? Because a pure example of the level of damage that can be done is look at the other genocide within this century, right? In Srebrenica, in Bosnia Herzegovina. Right?
Absolutely.
There we have Orthodox priests blessing the weapons of the perpetrators.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
These are Orthodox priests absolving the perpetrators of their sins and the acts of outrageous violence they will do towards their fellow human beings. So this is not a simple, small issue, a small thing, a rally that you can just think, oh, it's fine, oh, everything's fine. No, nothing is fine, okay? Now, that's not to spread fear or make you now start panicking. No, that's just first thing you have to realize is nothing is fine, okay? Something is going on, right? The second thing you have to realize is now, what are you going to do about it? The one thing you have to start with is learning about it. What's going on, right? Make yourself aware of it. Look at the parallels with history, okay? Look back at Nazi Germany, which is the peak example. Why? Because these people here, every single one of them within this European continent and the world, look at Nazi Germany as a horrible monster, okay? Something we should never repeat. But the little things that built up to that monster, they're ignoring, okay? And the one thing is the dehumanization of a people. The Nazis, they dehumanized the Jews. What is happening here? The Muslims have been dehumanized since decades ago, right? They're terrorists, they're barbarians. This is something that goes even further back, all the way back to the Middle Ages. So it's nothing new, but it's going on, right? And what are the next steps? And the next steps of that, if we look at Nazi Germany as an example, as a parallel, is that the Germans, the Nazi Party of that time, 1933, the next step after the dehumanization of Jews was the boycott of their businesses.
Correct, yes.
Hitting them where it hurts, their economic strength. Well, an average person, jobs and your business is where you survive, right? And then it just, after that, it got worse and worse. Getting rid of Jewish lawyers, getting rid of Jewish doctors, all of these, barring them from professions, all of this build up, and this all happened, and laws being put out for that, all happened within a year, 1933.
So look how fast, within a year, everything, look how fast it all went. And then people say, oh yeah, if we see that it's happening, we're going to leave or something. I've had this conversation already. It's going to be so fast, it will have this domino effect, basically. So you have to open your eyes before it gets to that point, you know? Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Absolutely right. And I think it's correct to draw the comparison, because if you exchange Muslim and immigrant for Jew and Jewish, then we are there. That's exactly what was said 70, 80 years ago. That's exactly what was mentioned at that time. That's where we are, okay? I wanted to look into the figures, the individuals that were present, actually, some of them at least, because it really raised my interest. I just couldn't, I had to look into them just to find out actually who comes up setting up an organization, or rather setting up a march like this, a rally like this. According to the main organizer, who was 𝗘𝗦𝗟𝗡𝗏, it was the biggest free speech rally ever. So they are fighting for free speech. So they want free speech. That is their main aim. That's what they're saying. Free speech. Then they go on saying basically that Islam is a problem. Islam is a violent religion, and the Muslims are not part of Europe and don't belong here. You know, so they go on like this. So on the one hand, they want free speech. On the other hand, they're trying to restrict free speech on other people. So it's about their free speech, right? They want free speech for themselves. Who is this 𝗘𝗦𝗟𝗡𝗏, by the way? I don't know if you're aware of this person. I don't know if our, viewers are aware of this person. Now, that's not his name. You know that's not his real name. His real name is Stephen Christopher Jackson Lennon, whose mother was an Irish immigrant to the UK. She was an Irish immigrant. His father was English, okay? And he tried, in 2012, he tried to enter the US with his friend's passport. So illegally.
Yeah.
And he, for that reason, ended up in prison and barred from the United States. Okay. Yeah. Interestingly enough, the same person who has a problem with illegal immigrants was himself an illegal immigrant. Okay. But it was not the UK, it was the US. So that's the difference, probably, you know. And he was a white person who obviously is allowed to do these things, right? But as we know, white people are considered expats, whereas brown and black people are immigrants, right?
Yeah.
So that's the two different things, right?
Playing with language there is also important.
Absolutely. By the way, he was a BNP member, okay, the British National Party, between 2004 and 2005. And then between 2005 and 25, for 20 years, he was in and out of prison. He served 5 prison terms. So for 20 years, he served 5 prison terms, okay? He founded, by the way, in 2009 to 13, he founded the EDL and led it, okay? Was the leader of the EDL. Now, the very same person who is the founder of the EDL is now setting up such a rally, supposed to be the biggest free speech rally ever, okay? He has a criminal record. This guy's a criminal, as well as many others. Now, if you look at other people who participated, okay, or other people who belong to this way of thinking, the Reform UK party was actually Benjamin Naeem Habib. I want to come and speak about this person, which is ridiculously funny, okay, that this Benjamin Naeem Habib is a Pakistani-born British person.
Yeah.
Okay, he's born in Pakistan. Okay, speaks out against immigration, speaks out against Brexit. Or for Brexit actually. He wanted the UK to leave, and he was a former deputy leader of Reform UK. Okay, the party with Nigel Farage, had a fallout with Nigel Farage. Okay, and has now his own party, which is called Advance UK. Subhanallah. And this very same Pakistani-born British person, okay, is a businessman of Pakistani origin, as we said. He was a donor of the Conservative Party, and he supported, as we said, Brexit. Okay, and he was mentioned, by the way, in the rally as well. People say, yeah, we support these people, these are good people, blah, blah, blah. Amongst them also Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, his surname indicates that he is of Huguenot ancestry. These were people who were having, during the religious wars in Europe, okay, especially in France, okay, because it's actually a French surname. Farage is a French surname, and that indicates that they used to live in France before his ancestors and came over to the UK as refugees, basically religious refugees, because as Protestants they were persecuted in France of that time. So he has Huguenot ancestry, and what I found out also is that the parents of his great-grandfathers, okay, were actually Germans who came to the UK in 1861. So Nigel Farage's great-grandparents, the parents of his great-grandfather, were actually Germans. In 1861, they came to the UK, and this is mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. These three people we just mentioned, who are the
image, the example, the role models of this movement of get rid of the immigrants, or stop immigration, or we should have our country just for ourselves, for the natives.
Yeah,
like the non-natives are leading the natives. These are non-natives.
According to their own definition, by the way, according to their own definition of non-natives.
Because go to one of these people, right, and show them a fourth, fifth generation Pakistani, for example, and for them, they couldn't care less. They wouldn't know the difference. They're like, no, this person is an immigrant. This person should go. No, excuse me, this is a fourth, fifth generation. You're not even second, third, fourth generation. Okay.
Crazy.
So it's ridiculous. But that's where we go on to exactly the thing you mentioned with regards to identity. Because it's ridiculous, you cannot reason with these people. You cannot reason, because it does not find the roots of this idea is not in reason. The root of nationalism is not in reason, it's in emotion. Okay, in identity, emotion. Okay, for example, they take we're Christians. These guys on a daily eat pork, drink alcohol, and just to name a few things that are anti-Christian, that are un-Christian of them.
Well, they would disagree. They would say that's that's rather Muslim. To eat pork, it doesn't say. So if we go theologically into the whole issue, you would have to first educate
again. Not that the average one would be able to stand and withstand a theological argument. They don't even know the theological foundation of their religion.
For them, it is really the identity is they are Christians because they are against Islam. So the point is not why you're not a Christian because you believe in Christ. By the way, one of the slogans was Christ is King. Okay, Christ is King. And according to Sky News, there was an over display of Christian nationalism, such as flags and crosses. And by the way, they tore apart a Palestinian flag and an Islamic flag and raised an Israeli flag. So I wonder, these British patriots, what does Israel have to do with your patriotism? What does Israel have to do with your nationalism? Why do you have to make a point of, Palestine and the issue in the Middle East, in order to make yourself feel better, or in order to show that you are a British patriot or nationalist or whatever you want to call it? So it is absolutely mind-blowing. But I mean, okay, many things have been said. The result of all of that is what? The result is 26 officers that are injured, and one is severely injured, by the way. Okay, MAGA hats and US flags, together with an Israeli flag, at least one. Christian clergy paid by the church and the Anglican Church and the state, because they're connected. Okay, and by the way, also a certain person representing from Germany, from the AfD party, which is a nationalist right-wing party from Germany. He was also present and had a speech. Okay, so it is absolutely outrageous. You know, where does this leave us? Actually, what should we do further? What happens next? I think we have to be aware now. Okay, that there is a problem in the UK. Okay, again, as much as the problems were there in Europe on the mainland, we have the problem here on this island as well nowadays, and we have to open our eyes as well, and we have to be aware of the fact that we are not wished and wanted here. Islam and Muslims are not wanted in this country. Always drawing the comparison to the past and say we have nothing to do with Islam. Islam is a new faith, has nothing to do with Europe. Islam doesn't belong to us, doesn't belong.
We have on our channel alone countless videos discussing this issue, videos going into different historical references and evidence of Muslims being in Europe.
Yeah.
The simple statement of that I can confidently say is that Muslims were established, Islam was established in Europe before Europe became Christian, before Europe was Christian. Muslims and Islam were in countries before countries existed. Okay, we're in Germany, we're in Switzerland before Switzerland, Germany existed.
Absolutely correct.
We're in Spain, we're in France before France and Spain existed. That is for us Muslims to educate ourselves and then be able to then counter this narrative, talk against these people.
Yes, it is a very important point that we mention here, education. And I mean, you see that the interviews tell you clearly. I mean, if you look at the interviews that were taken in all these shots and all these videos, you will see that the people are not very educated. It's always the same thing as we love our country and Britain and we have too many illegal immigrants and too many immigrants. And you know, it's always the same nonsense that they're saying and absolute not educated at all, uneducated at all. So we have to really work on something like that. That is, I think we have to work in the field of education much stronger. Our children and their children together have to learn finally that Islam is not something new. It's not a new phenomenon, and it can be part of the UK. You know, it is part of the UK and of Europe. Okay, and we have to realize it finally. That is something extremely important. But I would really say, as I said in the past, we have to sleep with open eyes. We have to sleep with open eyes. We do not know where this is going to lead to. It is new phenomenon actually from that perspective, because it was the largest nationalist movement ever, or not nationalist rally actually ever on British soil. So where this will lead to, we don't know. We don't know. So we're hoping, inshallah, we're making dua that things are getting better and that there will be some kind of, that these people over there will realize that, hey, it's not the case what we're saying or thinking. So,
and yeah, just to conclude from my side, again on that point of educating ourselves, right? Preparing ourselves for whatever negative might happen. A part of that is educating yourself about this issue, because these same people all over the world, especially in the West, they always put forward, oh, the Sharia this, the Sharia that, oh, it's so brutal, so this and that and that, all these can say. And now we as Muslims, okay, we say we're Muslims, so we represent that, and for them, every single one of us are a representative. They will address you eventually one day or another. And there are many things you can say. I just want to give you one thing, one idea, one thing to keep in mind to show that as you learn, you will understand things. And there's a simple quote from a non-Muslim, a colonial administrator, Warren Hastings. Okay, for those of you who have heard about him, brilliant. For those of you who haven't, this is something to help you. Okay, because there was a period of history where the Europeans spread around the world with the intention of conquering. Okay, now we have the Dutch, Southeast Asia. They want to expand their influence, and we have a colonial administrator quoting and saying that the Sharia, I quote, the Sharia was founded on the most lenient principles and on an abhorrence of bloodshed. Okay, now why he quotes that, why he says that, is because with their interest, their agenda of expanding their influence, the Sharia was in their way. With their agenda of tyrannizing and oppressing people, the Sharia was in the way and they had to get rid of it. And unfortunately, they were successful. But that is something, that is a quote, not from a Muslim, not from a non-Muslim, from an enemy of Islam, from a colonial administrator. Their job was to dismantle Islam. And that's what they say about the Sharia.